Okay, so I finally got to actually like recording the audio of this. So, uh, yay. Starting this video, I'm gonna add a little disclaimer. This was made for like my friends in my course. So if you guys are like, if somebody just happens to like come across this video, that's why this even exists in the first place. But yeah, whatever. Okay, so I started with like an oval head shape for the head, just because of simplicity's sake, as you can see, and then I added two sort of semicircles for the ears, and then I did two little lines for the neck, and for the torso I just did a long rectangle, and here you see I'm doing the crotch area, which is sort of like it's just like a little triangle of extra steps pretty much, and then the legs you just kind of like do two long lines for like each leg that sort of like go outwards near the end, in a little curved shape, as you can see, and then which leads to like the feet, which look like little triangles. So that's why that looks like that. The arms, it's pretty similar as well. I just kind of like drew where I wanted the top of the arm to be to like the elbow, and then I did the same thing except near the end, like the wrist bit is like a little bit thicker than like the upper like arm bit, and then the arms just like go like sort of transition between like the lower arm and then the hand. So that's pretty much how I did that. I was kind of like going back and forth with like the shape in this, to sort of edit bits that I don't like and change it around. Which pro tip: don't just go with like what you're doing. Just like go back until you're fully satisfied with what you're doing and like resize things. And then here I'm doing like the sort of like chest area, which you just kind of do two lines from like the neck, from like the neck area to like where you want like the cleavage to be, and you kind of do like two. For simplicity's sake, you just do like two lines that like meet each other at one point. So for the eyes, you just do like two little curved lines with like a little flick at the end of them to resemble eyelashes, and then a sort of oval shape for like the iris bit. I think that's what it's called. For the nose, just two little lines like that, like in the middle, like slightly off center. And you can see me struggling here with the lips, but I tend to just like draw um, like the main shape that I want, and then I draw the top of the lip like afterwards. So I have like the general shape of like what I want the expression to be down. And for the eyebrow, I just kind of like blocked it out with like it's basically like a rectangle with a little triangle on the side, and then I shaded it a little bit in. For ease, I just kind of copy and pasted the eyes because I couldn't be asked to do it, so ignore that. And I'm here resizing it. So here I'm coloring the eyes in. Also, mic adjustment. Anyways, and I'm just kind of like adjusting the face a little bit until like I'm satisfied with how it looks and like I'm happy with it. And now I'm moving on to the hair, which is starting with like the fringe. So what you do, you sort of pick out like where the starting point of the hair is, and then you kind of go down with it. I decided to make it like sort of like ponytails, two little ponytails. That's why I was like the two little triangles bits from there. And I just kind of like go wacky with it. I just add like a couple strands. Like I separate it with like separate bits just to, make it like nice to look at so it's not like as boring. And when drawing like hair, make it go in a little bit before going out because it doesn't look as flat. Okay, so now I'll be about to start drawing the clothes of the body, just clothes on top, which I just kind of choose like a basic, like, sort of revealing outfit. So it's like a little shirt with, as you can see what I'm drawing. And you just kind of, this is something that you just learn by yourself, honestly. You just kind of do a couple folds. Here I decided to change it because it looked a little bit iffy. Add a couple folds in there. That was me going like back to my reference. For folds, I don't really have like anything other than to just like look at references of your like of clothes and like pictures and sort of, try and replicate that in your art cuz I've been doing that more recently and I'm starting to become very happy with it. So, okay, so here I start drawing like the trousers of, the whole thing, which I'm currently like drawing a certain design and then I deleted it and like went back to it because the other design was like a little silly, but um I just kind of like go back and forth until I'm happy with like the design that I want, and yeah, that's really about it. Okay, so here I start drawing like the boots, which I just kind of like start with like a simple like um what's it called, curved line, and then I just kind of followed the way the foot was going, just like a little bit thicker, and then I just like did a straight line to underneath like the sole of the foot. And here it's not really that accurate, the laces, because this is more like just a little practice thing. And we're probably not gonna add this much detail in terms of like the lace and stuff, and like the shoes for the actual thing, for the actual animation, because it's gonna take too long. So now I'm here adding like a couple little extra accessories. Mainly it's just like the earrings, and you know, I just felt like I needed earrings. Okay, so around here, I'm like put all the layers in like a little folder, and I'm going in and using the lasso tool, going around stuff and like adjusting things that I'm not exactly happy with, and then going back to like do the line work because I'm not happy with certain things. For example, the hands are too like the arms, sorry, were like too long, and I wanted to shorten them a little bit, and I wanted to shorten like the little crotch bit. I forgot what it's called, so I made it a little smaller, and now I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna add a new layer and go in, into the like little spaces that I've made to like fix those little mistakes. Well, not mistakes, the little adjustments that I made. I'm also going in and like adding a couple details, here and there. Like for example, like the little hair pieces and like the little eye bags or whatever you call them, in the eyes, and adjusting like doing like little tweaks that I feel like would add that extra oomph to like the drawing. And now here I'm like using a reference to see how it would be, how you would see like the drawing if it were like in a different position rather than just like standing like face or like slightly to the side. Okay, so here I started like by sketching out just like generally like how the body is like moving about and stuff. So like it's sort of like a silhouette, you know, of where I want the things to go, and then I start like moving them about, as you can see. It's just like fiddling around with the drawing until you're happy with it. You're gonna see me go like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until I'm actually happy with, you know, the product, because nobody's ever gonna be like happy like first try with like their drawing. They're always gonna have to do some adjustments. Okay, I'm gonna reiterate this point here. As you're gonna see in a second, I'm gonna start like drawing the chest. Don't overcomplicate it too much. With like a bunch of like extra shapes. It's mainly this art style. Just like draw like a couple triangles, call it like not a couple triangles, like two like lines, call it a day. It doesn't have to be that detailed. It's just like for like simplicity's sake, since we're gonna be animating this, you don't need to like draw like the like a box each time. You draw like the chest area and then like the bit underneath like with the stomach and then like the crotch. Like just like keep it relatively simple, you know. Since otherwise you're just gonna overcomplicate yourself, like I said earlier, and it's gonna be way harder to draw, and you're gonna suffer. And this is something I realized very late on to like my art journey, which was like a little bit annoying, but we live. Also, pro tip number like 500. Um, if you see me like like I did just now, like turning like the canvas around, there's a reason for that. Um, you're when you're like drawing something, your eye gets kind of like used to it, and twisting it around makes you like see like the things that are wrong in the drawing and not symmetrical. Like for example, in like the other drawing that I didn't like twist around, you could see like a lot of like wonkiness when I turned it around. Whereas like normally it looks fine, and that's a little annoying, but like we live. Okay, also here you can see me starting to draw the hair. Um, like I said, start with like a little middle point, and then from there, like do you know the separate hair strands. At least that's how I'm doing it. Um, this like isn't the way everyone does it. Like everyone like draws differently. This is just how I do it. Don't take this as like a you must draw it this way sort of video, because it's everyone like draws differently. Like I see some people like immediately drawing the character without like using any sketch, which wow. Um, but yeah, don't like take this as like you should do it like this, because I'm not an expert. You can also see me here like starting to draw like the like the bust area, the chest, and like you know the dress on top of it. Um, I just kind of like eyeball it from like where I drew the side bits. I just kind of like draw like a little circle in front and then call it a day. At least that's like kind of what I do, or what I've started to do. And here now you can see me like drawing like the folds of the dress, which I probably said this previously. You just need to like I like references of like different, you know, different drawings and like different pictures of like fabric flowing, sort of replicate it, look at it, and that's like how I realized how I should probably, you know, be adding more like straighter lines, you know, and it's it's a practice thing, and I know a lot of people hate like hearing practice, 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 but to like learn how to draw some of the stuff, you really need to practice for like ages to get it right. So, and for the shoes here, I use kind of like the reference. You see how like they hit the platform, sort of show like the toes going like I don't know, going down and then like whatever. You get the point. Like it looks like a little bit tippy toed. I just kind of like use the image as a reference for like my feet. Well, not my feet. Yeah, my feet. The shoes that I'm drawing now, and you just kind of like use it, and you can currently see that like one of them's bigger than the other, and that will be fixed in a little bit, but like I said, you you have to like tweak as you're drawing until like you get the shape that you want, you know? At least that's how I do it. I never get it right first try. Otherwise I'd be amazing at drawing, you know? Yeah, here you can see like me sort of using the other foot as like a reference to this foot and then like moving it around until it's like roughly around the same shape. And then I'm using the lasso tool, pushing it around until I'm happy with like the general shape of each like foot. And here I'm like just doing, you know, the tights on the legs, and on the other one I didn't draw it because like you can see it. Like you couldn't see it from like the fabric underneath, you know? And here I'm just adding a couple little adjustments. This is where I start to like draw, like map out the face. And it took me like several tries to get like the mouth right until I was like happy with the shape. Same with like the face. Like I've been saying this like all like video, but you can go back and you can like adjust things and, you know, edit them until you're happy with it, because otherwise it would look very wonky. And yeah. Pro tip number like a billion. You see how like the iris looks really wonky when I like, you know, first drew it, because like the iris looks a little bit iffy. That's because it's supposed to be more like closer to the nose, because otherwise it just looks like you have like a lazy eye, which isn't really fun. So and now you can see me going back in with like the pen, you know, on each eye, adjusting until I'm like happy with like how the eyes look, and like erasing bits, redrawing them. And now I made it like a little bit bigger since I thought the face was like a little too small for what I was trying to go for. So that's fun. And you see me like going back in, you know, making a couple of more adjustments to like the body, and now back to the face. And I cannot stress how important it is to just like go back to your work and then like do little adjustments, since like they make like a world's difference overall. At least that's what it feels like to me. Could be feel like much more different to other people, but that's just my opinion. Also, you may have noticed how I have like 5 different layers for like the same sketch. That's because I'm like kind of iffy when it comes to like drawing on the same layer, because if you make like a little mistake and you have to erase it, it becomes a little bit annoying, and then you'd have to like erase the whole thing and then redraw the whole thing. So just kind of like doing different layers. So it's just easier for me. If you'd like to draw it all in one layer, that's fine. And as you saw me, I just kind of added like a clipping mask on top of the sketch layer, changed it to like the layer, the color that I actually wanted, you know, the sketch to be, because I'm using it as a line art since I don't really have time to go over it and then do the line art. And now I'm coming in with color, and I'm just like kind of blocking on with like the same like sketchy pencil. You know, the color of whatever I'm painting, like whatever I'm drawing on, which in this case is like the hair. And then I like layer on like the shading, as you see, and uh, it's depending on like how I feel. I go like straight to the shading, but in this case, like straight to the shading from, you know, put color, shade it, put color, shade it. But now I'm like doing all block colors first, base colors, and then going on top all in one layer, and doing the shading, just because I felt like it. I don't know. I just felt like it, and when I was drawing this. Also, for this art style, I suggest like for um doing more like a pastel-y almost sort of base colors contrasted with like darker tones. At least in this one, it's more like a pastel-y brown, like a pastel-y peachy color for like the skin. Don't quote me on that. And then like contrasted with like the black, and also pro tip number like a billion. don't go straight in with black. This is like a dark gray because I later on shade with the black rather than like going to gray on top. I just find it personally easier this way. Also, my sort of like full process when like doing these colors, like doing like just like thinking about like what colors I want to put into like a drawing is what colors sort of match and what colors like I use again. Because like instead of putting like 5 different colors, I kind of try to limit myself to like less amount. For example, um, it's for me it's mainly like in this one it's black, and then the red for the shoes and the lipstick, which like sort of matches, which I kind of like. It's kind of like um, what's it called? It's kind of like when you match like your purse to your shoes in real life. It's sort of like that, if you know what I mean. And the only reason I'm like using like a like grayish brown color for this, because technically they're black tights, right? Is because like that's what it's gonna look like on skin. For example, if you take like the skin tone and then you take black on another layer on top and then you put them on top, it's gonna turn out like this sort of color. So I don't know. I'm yapping. I'm sorry. Here you're gonna see me like struggling a little bit with like the mouth because I kind of when I sketched it, I kind of made it like really rough and I didn't really plan out where like the teeth are gonna be, where like the tongue's gonna be. I mean, I kind of planned it out, but not like good enough. So I'm just kind of like going over a few times until I'm happy with like what I got. Since it's like a sketch, it doesn't really matter, and I'm gonna go over some of it again in a little bit. Here I'm kind of going like another added another clipping mask on top of like the sketch layer, and I'm going over it with like lighter colors, darker colors, because like in some places um this the color felt a bit too like bold, and I wanted it to like feel a little bit more like smooth almost. I don't know how to explain it. It just looks better. That just trust me, it just looks better. And I'm also sort of planning where like the light comes from a little bit by now, especially like around like the line art of like the dress, which is gonna have like the most shading. And here's where I start like sort of shading. Basically, how I shade, I make darker color, I make darker than that color, and then I go in finally with like a brighter color on top. Sometimes, depending on like the color, I go in with like um a sort of complementary color to it. For example, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say complementary color. For example, if I'm shading like white, I will use like a blue because black feels a little bit too harsh, and mistake number like a billion that you can do. I personally don't really shade with black at all unless it's like the color on that I'm shading on as a base is like gray, and even then I still use like other colors on it. Um, Often I would use like yellows for like brighter areas, and then like blues and stuff like that for like darker areas. But like that just like it's honestly preference. There's not really many rules to drawing. This is just like how I do it. Or when like you're drawing, sort of like think about where like the light is coming from, so you know like where to shade it, because sometimes if you like put a light one place and then light comes from somewhere else, unless it's like a secondary source of light, it doesn't really make sense. So you just have to think about like that sort of stuff. Uh, when I like was younger, I used to like just do random shading all the time, and honestly, it kind of ruined a lot of my artwork. It just like looks really weird and unnatural, and it was just like shading of the shit of shading, which was kind of again, personal experience. Don't take any of this like to heart. I'm not like a teacher or anything. This is just like, again, how I draw. So and also to emphasize this point, what I used to do, I'm not sure if like anybody else used to do this, but like when I was like much worse at drawing, I used to like if I did shaded it first time and I didn't like it, I would just like keep on continuing to do it, like to go on top of it, and then it will make it even more like even worse. So I've started like undoing, if I don't like something, I just undo it and I redo it until I'm satisfied with it, because otherwise you're just gonna make it look worse. At least I used to make it look worse, and that's just like something that I caught on with, and I made it stop. So now I can like shade much better than I used to. Convenience sake, I kind of like do the highlights like with like full opacity, and I go over like which bits I want highlighted, and then afterwards, like in a bit, you're gonna see that I turn down like the opacity of like the layer itself to like make it more subtle, because otherwise it's just gonna look very blocky. So, and now here, as I mentioned earlier, I add like blue to the shading um, of like multiple things, not just like the dress, like the shoes, the tights, Um, and there's like little blotches or just me being annoyed by the brush because of like the pen pressure, which I need to fix, but we're gonna talk about that. Okay, so this is gonna conclude the video, since, there you go, this is a drawing set I did. very cool, am I right? Yeah, just, I hope this helps. Don't take this as like a how-to video, or like you must do A, B, and C to be good at drawing, because it's not. This is just like how I do it. Every artist has like their own little, techniques and stuff. This is just how I personally do it, or at least in this art style, I personally would do it if I were to like animate and like sketch and like what's it called, shade, like in this sort of, and with this art style. Um, Everyone has, like I said, their own ways of drawing, their own ways of line work, their own ways of coloring in, their preferred methods, but that doesn't really matter as long as like you can do it. It doesn't really matter how you get there, as long as like you get to the point where you're satisfied with like your drawings. So yay. Again, please don't take this as like a how to. Bye. Bye.